Every ending is a beautiful neon requiem, a glowing tribute to the journey we have shared and the lessons we've learned together. Join us as we close this chapter with style and prepare for the next big revelation. Subscribe today and witness the beauty of resolution.
The Walmart on Route 9 was never my idea of a Thursday night out, but my sister had texted me 3 times about a sale on the good coffee pods, so there we were. It was one of those late October evenings where the sky goes dark too early and everyone inside the store looks a little dazed by the fluorescent lights. My sister was pushing the cart, tossing things in that she definitely didn't come for. A throw pillow, a scented candle, a pack of socks she held up like she'd found treasure. "You came for coffee," I said. "And I'm getting coffee," she said, already moving toward the seasonal display. I didn't mind. My sister and I had started doing this, these small, pointless errands together after her divorce. It wasn't about the errands. We both knew that. It was just easier to talk when you were walking, when you had something to look at besides each other. I was checking my phone when she stopped suddenly and grabbed my arm. "Don't turn around yet," she said, and her voice had changed, low and flat. I went still. "What?" "There's a man by the pharmacy counter. He's been watching us since the electronics section." I had the urge to turn immediately, the way you always do when someone tells you not to. I didn't. "Are you sure? Maybe he's not shopping," she said. "He hasn't moved in 4 minutes. I've been clocking it." That's my sister. She was a property manager for 12 years. She notices things. She counts things. I kept my eyes on the coffee display in front of us and said very quietly, "What does he look like?" "Big. Dark jacket. He's got a cart, but nothing's in it." A cart with nothing in it. In a Walmart at 8 p.m. I told myself there were plenty of explanations. Maybe he was waiting for his wife. Maybe he was on the phone. Maybe he just stood there like that because he was the kind of person who needed a minute to decide between 2 types of shampoo. But my sister's hand was still on my arm, and she wasn't letting go. We moved toward the coffee aisle slowly, like nothing was wrong. I pulled a bag off the shelf and pretended to read the label. My eyes drifted to the convex security mirror mounted in the corner of the ceiling. He was there, and he was moving. Not quickly, not in a way that would alarm anyone watching. Just adjusting, repositioning, like he was making sure he didn't lose sight of us. My mouth went dry. I thought about my car. I'd parked on the far end of the lot near the garden center because it was the only space I could find when we arrived. In October, the garden center closed at 6. That side of the parking lot would be nearly empty, nearly dark. "We need to find someone who works here," I said, and I meant it. Not to ask for help with the product, not to find a restroom, but because I needed us to be next to another human being who was paying attention. We walked to the customer service desk near the front. A young woman in a blue vest was restocking the bags at the register. Her name tag said Adrienne. She had her hair pulled back and reading glasses pushed up on her head, and she looked up at us with the practiced patience of someone who answered the same 4 questions 100 times a day. I leaned in close and said quietly, "I think there's someone following us around the store. I don't want to make a scene, but I don't feel safe going to our car." Adrienne didn't flinch, didn't look over my shoulder right away. She just held my gaze for a second, nodded slowly, and said, "Okay, stay right here." She picked up the phone behind the counter and said something into it I couldn't hear. Within 2 minutes, a loss prevention officer appeared. A broad-shouldered woman in a black polo who introduced herself as the floor manager on duty. She asked me a few questions. Where had we seen him? How long? What he looked like? I described him. The dark jacket, the empty cart, the way he moved when we moved. She nodded. "Can I ask you to wait in our back break room for a few minutes? It's just down that hall. I'm going to have someone walk through the store." My sister looked at me. I looked at her. We followed Adrienne through a door marked employees only, down a narrow hallway that smelled like a coffee maker left on too long, and into a small room with a folding table, 4 plastic chairs, and a vending machine humming in the corner. "I'll bring you some water," Adrienne said, and closed the door behind her. The room was quiet. The fluorescent light above us buzzed faintly. My sister sat down and set her purse in her lap and stared at the vending machine without seeing it. "Do you think I overreacted?" she asked. "No," I said. and I meant it. Here's the thing about my sister. She spent 3 years in a marriage where she was told she overreacted, where every instinct she had was explained away or minimized or turned back on her. She came out the other side quieter in some ways, but sharper in others. She had learned to trust the thing that her gut said before her brain could talk her out of it. When she said that man was watching us, I believed her the way I would have believed a smoke alarm. The floor manager came back about 10 minutes later. She came in and closed the door and sat across from us at the folding table. "He's gone," she said. "He left the store right after we started watching him, didn't buy anything, left the cart in the middle of an aisle." The air went out of me. "Did anyone get a look at the parking lot?" I asked. "We have cameras on the exterior. My associate is checking now. I'm also going to walk you both to your car when you're ready." She paused. "I want you to know you did the right thing. You came to us instead of going outside." My sister's eyes filled up, just briefly. She blinked it away fast, the way she always does, like she's embarrassed to be caught feeling something. When we finally left, the floor manager walked with us, and so did a young male employee who had at least 6 inches on everyone else in the parking lot. It was almost 9 by then. The far end of the lot near the garden center was exactly what I'd imagined. A handful of cars, a blown-out light in one of the overhead fixtures, the kind of dark that feels like it presses in from the edges. My car was there. No one was near it. We got in. I locked the doors. My sister sat with her purse in her lap and didn't say anything for a moment. Then she said, "Thank you for not telling me I was imagining it." I kept my hands on the steering wheel and looked out at the parking lot. "Thank you for saying something instead of just trying to seem normal." She laughed a little at that, short and dry. "I've been trying to seem normal for years. I'm tired." "I know," I said. "Me too." We sat there longer than we needed to. The heater ran. The windows fobbed slightly at the edges. Outside, the lights of the parking lot made everything flat and pale. I thought about all the times in my life I had talked myself out of something. The unease I swallowed. The exits I didn't take because I didn't want to seem paranoid or dramatic or like I was making something out of nothing. I thought about every time I had looked at a situation and thought, probably fine, and kept walking. I thought about what the floor manager said when we left. She'd shaken both of our hands at the door and said, very matter-of-factly, "Trust that feeling." Every single time. I've turned that over in my mind many times since then. We don't know who he was. We never found out. The cameras caught his car, an older sedan with no plates on the front, but it turned out the rear plate came back to a vehicle reported stolen 6 weeks earlier in a county 2 hours away. The police took a report, said they'd flag it. I've learned not to wait for a tidy ending to a story like this. Sometimes there isn't one. Sometimes a threat moves on before it becomes something you have to name. What I do know is this. That night could have ended very differently if my sister hadn't said something. If she'd looked at that man and thought, "I'm probably overreacting," and kept pushing the cart. If I told her she was being paranoid, if we'd gone to the car by ourselves, parked at the far end of that dark lot, fumbling with keys the way you do when you're not thinking about being watched, but she said something, and the moment she did, we were no longer alone with it. I drove us home that night on the back roads, the ones I've known since I was 16. Past the gas station that still has the old sign. Past the church with the lit-up marquee. Past the road my grandmother used to live on, which I can never drive by without glancing down it just once, like she might still be there. My sister was quiet for most of the drive, looking out the window at the dark fields. Before she got out of the car, she reached over and squeezed my hand once, hard, without saying anything. She didn't need to. I waited in the driveway until her porch light came on, and I saw her shadow move behind the glass of the front door. Then I backed out and drove home, watching my mirrors the whole way, not out of fear, exactly, but out of something that felt more useful than fear. Attention. I drove home paying attention. There's something I've been thinking about ever since that night, something I couldn't quite put into words for a long time. We grow up being told not to make a fuss, not to bother anyone, not to cause a scene, and somewhere inside that, we absorb the idea that our discomfort is less important than everyone else's convenience. That being wrong about something dangerous is more embarrassing than not saying anything at all. But that night, Adrian at the customer service desk didn't make me feel foolish for coming to her. The floor manager didn't sigh or look at me like I was being dramatic. They treated what I said like it mattered, like I mattered, like my sister's instinct was worth taking seriously. That response, that quick, quiet, professional response, is something I think about a lot. Because it wasn't nothing. What they gave us wasn't just safety logistics. It was the experience of being believed. My sister called me the next morning, early, before I'd finished my first cup of coffee. "I keep thinking about it," she said. "Me too. I keep thinking about if I hadn't said anything." "But you did," I said. "You said something." A long pause on the line. Outside my kitchen window, the leaves were turning. A neighbor's dog was barking somewhere down the street. "I spent so long not saying things," she said finally. I knew what she meant. She didn't mean just the parking lot. "I know," I said. "I'm done with that," she said. She sounded different when she said it. Not angry, not loud, just certain. The way you sound when you said something true out loud for the first time and your own voice surprises you. "Good," I said. And I meant that too. I've thought a lot about what would have happened if Cora had stayed quiet. It would have been so easy for her to do that. To look at that man by the pharmacy counter, feel the unease move through her like a cold draft, and then talk herself out of it. To think, he's probably just waiting for someone. I'm probably tired. I'm probably making something out of nothing again. She had years of practice at that, at taking whatever her instincts were telling her and folding them up small and putting them somewhere they couldn't inconvenience anyone. But she didn't do that. She grabbed my arm. She told me what she saw. And that one decision, quiet, quick, unremarkable from the outside, changed everything about how that night ended. I think about cause and effect a lot differently now than I used to. Not in any dramatic way, just in the way that lived experience has a way of rearranging things you thought you understood. I used to think that safety was mostly about luck. You're fine until you're not, and there's not much in between. But that night taught me something different. It taught me that the gap between a bad outcome and a safe one is often not luck at all. It's a decision, a small one. The decision to speak instead of swallow, to act instead of wait and see. That's not luck, that's character. Cora has been through enough that she could be forgiven for not trusting herself. For a long time, she didn't. She spent years in circumstances that taught her to doubt her own read on things, to second-guess the very instincts that were trying to protect her. Coming back from that, learning to hear yourself again after so long spent talking yourself out of things, that takes a kind of courage that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. It looks like a woman in a Walmart holding onto her sister's arm, saying, "Don't turn around," in a low voice and meaning every word of it. That's real strength, not the loud kind. The kind that operates quietly, in the middle of an ordinary Thursday, when no one is watching and the stakes turn out to be higher than anyone expected. And Adrian. I haven't forgotten her either. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't look past me to see if I seemed credible. She just listened, picked up the phone, and started doing something about it. That matters more than people realize. The way someone responds in a moment like that, whether they treat your fear like it's real or like it's an inconvenience, can determine what you do next. If she had made me feel foolish, I might have walked back out into that parking lot, telling myself I'd overreacted. She didn't, and we didn't. The choices we make in ordinary moments are the ones that define us. What we do when it's quiet and nothing is certain, and there's no audience, and it would be easier to say nothing. Whether we speak or stay silent. Whether we help or look away. Whether we trust ourselves or keep giving that trust to people who haven't earned it. Cora said she was done not saying things. I believed her. I think she believed herself. That's where it starts.